In this video, we're going to look at some of the custom reports available on the Code platform. The custom reports are launched from the District Explorer dashboard or the Explorer dashboard at the school or classroom level. These reports allow you to select one or more assessments and perform a variety of analyses on those assessments. In this case, I've already selected two Grade 5 ELA assessments. They're listed here. I can use the menu on the left to make selections and to customize the report that I want to produce. In this video, we're going to focus on looking at mastery by standard as well as by teacher, but we'll start off more simply. So for example, the primary grouping defaults to school. I can see menu options that allow me to change that primary grouping. Another way to think about this grouping is how the user wishes to disaggregate the data set. I'm going to leave it at school for now and click Create Report. So this shows me in a table view the various schools that are part of my sample and the average score for each. I also see at the bottom here a chart-based display of the same data. I can manipulate the display using the menu options on the left. So for example, I can hide the table and I can do things like showing the values that correspond to each bar or column on the chart. I can also switch this to what we call Mastery View. The Mastery View will show a breakdown of achievement or mastery levels. Again, I can show the values here that correspond to the percentage of students at each level of mastery. To see more complicated reports, I may wish to choose a different primary and/or secondary grouping. So in this case, I'm actually going to choose to group by standard, and I also want to group by test using the secondary grouping. This will disaggregate my data set using both standard and test categories. Creating the report now shows me the mastery view looking at the first test, but I can quickly switch that to the second test by selecting from the menu. I can also switch this back to the standard view, and in this case we're talking about standard as in typical or basic type of view. We like this one when comparing standards from one test to another, and the reason for that is it allows you to easily see whether students have made learning gains across one test versus the second test covering the same group of standards. You can see that here, that in general the orange bar is higher than the green, representing the fact that students did better on the second benchmark assessment covering the same group of standards. Again, you can show that data in a tabular view as well, and you can show mastery data in the table if you just check that box. Or if you prefer, you can get rid of the table entirely and show just the chart-based view. These reports can be printed and they can also be exported. The export can be managed either as a CSV for Excel or as tab-delimited text. The custom reports also allow a variety of other types of modifications. For example, you can set filters to focus on just particular standards or skills or other information relative to the test content, such as DOK level. So now I've switched over the report to show DOK levels. And again, I can show this by either a mastery view or a standard view. Once in the mastery view, I can do things like changing the report style as well. And I'm going to choose to show values. Okay, if I want to compare data by teachers, I can also do that. So for example, I can change the primary grouping to teacher. I'm not going to disaggregate by anything else under the secondary grouping just yet. So this will show a list of teachers and the percentage of students that they have at each level of mastery if I have the mastery view area set to on, or in just the conventional or standard view, I can see the overall score by teacher. These teacher names are fictitious and designed only for demo purposes. I can show this as a chart if I want, and this gives me a good sense of how my teachers are performing across these two assessments. Here's another that looks at two tests. Because I have two tests in my sample and I've chosen to disaggregate by both teacher and test, I can see the breakdown for each teacher and their scores at a classroom level for each of the two selected assessments. Here again, I can show growth each teacher has made for their class across those two selected assessments, and I can get into more detail if I choose. I could also choose to compare teachers by standards. So in this case, I've disaggregated by both teacher and standards, and I can see the score, and this represents the combined average on both assessments for every teacher in my sample. If I want to narrow down the report so it's a bit more manageable, I can choose just to select specific teachers. So here I've used the filters to narrow down the teachers that I'm looking at to 3 teachers at a particular school that have administered 2 assessments. I've also chosen to disaggregate the report display by standard and by teacher, so I can compare the results of individual teachers across standards. I can see that both here in the table and below in the chart view. I'm going to remove the table so we can get a better view. This display allows me to easily determine which teachers are having more success with certain standards than others, and vice versa. We'll leave it there for now, but hopefully this short video has given you a sense of some of the key features of the COAT custom reporting platform, particularly when it comes to looking at data by standard and by teacher.